Hi, this is Lisa Norton.
And this is Lora Zmak.
And together we're Material Girlfriends. Today we wanted to show you how to make an improv round log cabin. So if you have purchased the Round Rosie Runner pattern, sometimes it gets a little confusing on what is pruning and how do you prune in order to get your round posies. Also, if you're participating in the quilter's color therapy, when you get to session 7, which is indigo, your optional project is an improv round log cabin block that you can make into a kitchen quilt or a pot holder. So we wanted to show you how to build a round improv log cabin.
To start, you're going to have to decide what color you want to make your flower. So today I'm going to make the indigo flower, and you can use pink or orange or rose or whatever color you'd like to make. But the first thing you'll do is you're going to lay out your color palette, your colors in value order. So you're going to start with the dark, and you're going to arrange them, and then you're going to end with light. When you look at flowers in nature, they'll often quite have a very dark center, and then they get lighter as they grow into their outward petals. So we're going to start with our darkest fabrics, and then our indigo rose is going to actually get lighter as it grows. In order to make the center, it's often fun just to fussy cut something. So I've got a bright, fun, loud piece of fabric here, which if you'll look at the center of this one, it was just kind of like a little spider web, which made a spider, which was kind of cool, but makes me want to feel like I need to get out the bug spray. So with this one, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll put an indigo flower on the center of my rose, or I could do something a little wild and wonkier, or whatever tends to make you happy. So today I'm actually going to use this one. So to start, you're going to cut a square. Now you can cut a small square that will be anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 inches, or you can make it a little bit bigger, like a 3-inch, if the center you wanted to use was going to be a little bit bigger. So this is just a suggestion. It is not a hard and fast rule. What you don't want to do is you don't want to use a template of an hexagon. You don't want it a perfect hexagon. So you're going to start with a square, and you're going to lop off pieces. Maybe we should start with a sharp blade.
How about a sharper blade? I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's about a 3-inch square. You want to show them how to lop it?
So when you're going to lop it, you're going to just carefree, la-ti-da. Here's a one. We're going to do another one. Here's another one. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 sides. I'm not really happy with this little point here.
You're going to want to try and avoid the 90-degree angles.
There we go. And it is not perfect. So we're ready to get sewing onto this one. And it's very lopsided. And yet I know that I've left enough space that I'm going to have a really cool center.
So first thing that you're going to choose is one of your first darks. And then you're going to cut strips. Now, the inside of a flower, the petals are tighter, so you're going to want your narrower strips on the inside and then wider as you go along. So to start, we might be cutting maybe a 1.5-inch wide strip or a 2, but then as you get further out to your outside edge, it's going to be 2.5 inches. Now the other thing about these petals, and they don't have to be exactly straight. They can be slightly wonky. So you just get to have some fun with this.
All right, we're going to get busy cutting, and we'll be right back. Once you have your strips cut, now you're going to be ready to sew. Now I have thinner strips from about 1.5 inches, and then they vary and get a little bigger to 2 inches, 2.5 inches, and then my last ones for the outer edge is about 3 inches. And if I decide 3 inches is too big, then I can always trim it down. Now, if you'll notice on my flower, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different colors. And then I've added my greens to the outside. Now I have way more values of indigo than 8. But this gives me choices, and of course I'm going to make more than one flower because they're just so fun to make. So we're ready to start. Now if you'll notice my hexagon here, he ended up to be just a little bit less than 3 inches wide and just about 2.5 inches. That's still pretty big. Usually I start with one that's a little smaller, but I just really like that center, and so that's I'm going to fussy cut in order to make this guy a little bigger. I'm going to start with my darkest piece. I'm going to choose any side of my wonky hexagon center, and now I'm going to lay right sides together, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch. Now, if you'll notice on my flower here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 turns of the same fabric. Then I change fabrics, and then I'll go 3 more. Then I go 3, and then I've done 2. I could do 3 more, 3. But what this does is it gives the illusion that the petal is wrapping around a flower. So I'm going to repeat this color at least 3 times, maybe 4, since it's pretty small like this one. We're going to be sewing, and we'll be right back. I've sewn my first seam, so he's sewn on there, and now I'm going to press them toward the outside. So I'll press toward the dark, or I'll press toward the piece that's always been sewn on. Oop. Oh, that was a bonky. There we go. All right.
Don't worry, I'll trim it off.
Would you mind? That'd be great.
Okay.
And Lisa's going to show you how to trim.
So when you're trimming, you're going to align your ruler with your edge of your wonky hexagon, and then you're just going to continue that line right through the piece you sewed on. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Oop. We are professionals. Do not try this at home.
All right, now I'm ready to sew on my second piece. So going clockwise, or am I going counterclockwise?
No, you're going clockwise.
I'm going clockwise.
It really doesn't matter as long as you're consistent.
So long as you go the same direction for each sewing. So I'm going to go clockwise. I'm going to align my piece here, and now I'm going to make my second seam. Second seam is sewn on. Now I'm going to press toward the dark side here.
An easy rule to remember is just always press away from the center.
I am having pressing issues today. I'll let Lisa trim that.
Sometimes it's easier to trim from the back side. So if you get to the top and you're like, well, how am I supposed to do that? I can't see it. Just flip it over and trim from the back. Looks good.
Are you going to trim the other side?
I guess we should do that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I can see the trim that's there.
Just go lengthwise with this one.
Oh, you want to go that way?
Yeah.
Okay. There. I still have a wonky there, but
That's all right.
I think it'll be okay. It'll get
all
trimmed.
right. So sewn this one first. Now I've sewn this one. Now I'm going to sew the next one on. So here we go.
We'll just do a little speed thing. This one's a little harder to see. we've got 3 sides and 3 sides, and we could do a 4th if we wanted, but I'm ready for a new color. So let's do this one. This one looks good. So we're continuing to work in clockwise, and so we're just going to add it to the next side. Of course, I think I'll do it way down here and not waste all that fabric. It's huge. So we could have stopped a little bit a while ago,
But we were having too much fun.
so the instructions say when your Rosie gets to be about 7 inches, then you start adding your green corners. Well, we were having so much fun and it was just going along just great, so we didn't stop. But you would use a square, an 8.5 inch square is what it's going to finish at. But first you'd look at it and see if it needed any pruning. I think it's doing okay.
Ours is still doing pretty well.
So we're going to have to make an
size-wise.
example of pruning here in a second. But anyway, we're going to do a little bit of
Lopping off.
lopping off
Let's
or
turn
pruning so that we can add some of our green.
Let's do that. Well,
Okay, so I'm going to just put my 8.5 inch square kind of wonky on it, and I'm going to trim off some of this extra indigo. Now, we have a few indigo posies. So, what were we meaning when we were talking about sometimes you need to prune your roses? So, we've got some examples for you. This first example, I'll move these out of the way. As you can see, our next strip that would be coming around would be going right here. That gives us a really strong point right there. So Laura, what would you do?
well, I would think, what if I did something like this? Well, that is a much more pleasing shape, so I'm going to prune. And all I did was just cut off the end, and I'm going to sew this one onto this next spot here. And then I will continue on around with another lighter, or almost call it done, and add some green. But now my Rosie's round again. Now I went from 6 sides, now I have 7 sides. Does it matter?
No,
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. This is one of those that has really hardly any rules, and the rules can be broken.
Exactly. So now I'm going to lay that on there, and I'm going to sew this one on.
All right, my next example of needing to be pruned.
Yikes.
I know, what happened to this poor Rosie? It looks like it got squished. So we're going to prune this one. I'm looking at it going, how should I prune this poor thing? Okay, so I'm a little less loosey-goosey than Laura and don't want to just lop off, but I'm wondering if
I lop it off because I can always sew it back on.
I know, but I'm a little bit more, where's my rules and my guidelines kind of girl. I'm thinking, lop it off that much. Do you think that's
I agree.
too much?
No, I agree.
Okay, I'm going for it.
I like that.
That's much more round.
But see, this is
this is
that
the
pleasing
thing that
you?
we didn't really talk about very much. And you see how I have a right angle here and another right angle here, and it just made, as it got larger and larger, my right angle is what caused it to have that funky shape.
I would just do that cut again, but this time go to about here to that end.
Like right there?
Yeah, and then we've got a nicer angle.
Because you want to keep your angles to be obtuse and not right or acute.
That looks great.
I like that much
Yep.
better.
Ready
So,
to sew on.
ready
that
to
one.
put on some green. And then this one.
Is it really big enough for green? Yep, I guess
Yes,
you're right.
it is.
Okay.
This one,
Uh-oh.
I ended up losing a side. It happens. Sometimes the sides are small enough that your sixth side gets lost in a seam. And so now I'm about to where it's almost 7 inches and I'm needing to prune it. And I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. Wait, did I count that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sides. So I definitely need 6 or even a 7 might help. I have a right angle here. This is an acute angle here.
I would say cut it
Yeah.
off here and then just add on. That's better.
Yeah, it's way better, but I still
But you know
have
what?
this
I
right
think
angle.
this piece is too big. If you actually just made it narrower.
Yeah, and I don't like this right angle here too. So I'm going to trim this down just a little. That seems a more balanced leaf. And then this right angle bothers me. Let me see if I just lop off.
Well, if you lop it off, there you go. I'd say go bigger.
Yeah, go big or go home, right?
All right, now you're 7 sides, so why not?
Well, 7 sides still makes a nice round
I
posy.
agree.
It still looks a little thick.
Yeah, but if you took this color and sewed on the next,
Yeah, exactly.
then I think you're going to do great.
So this one actually is pretty close to 7. I'm almost ready to put my
you're right.
greens on.
You're right.
So this one's ready for the green pile too.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, we're going to sew some more.
And we'll be right back. Well, look at that beautiful posy.
We've had a fun afternoon sewing up.
So
And just that little few strips that we made, these are our leftovers here. And we actually got 5 posies done that we're going to now square up. And we're going to talk just a little bit about what we found successful, which ones we didn't find successful, and any other little tips.
all right, so when you're squaring up your posy, you're going to definitely need it to be bigger than 8.5 inches. And it's fine to trim off purple to the edge. You're just going to find to where your posy is happy or rosy. Where do you like it, Laura?
Actually, right there. That looks great. Make sure all corners hit the green and you're ready to trim. I can trim that one if you want.
Well, you could have trimmed it all better than me because you're ambidextrous. There we go.
Did we not just put a fresh blade in this one?
We did. I think we used it all afternoon, or we...
With all 4 of our hands in here, you can't see.
You can't see what in the world we did, but...
Don't throw these away. These are awesome little things, and I'll show you a little trick on one of the other ones that I will use these. These are not garbage. All right, I'm going to set them aside.
Well, let's do this one then. This is an example of
there we
that
go.
piece.
So here I took one of these edges that we had squared off, and I would just have sewn it right onto that one. However, I used this one. This is another leftover piece that I had just in essence sewn on. So don't throw away those large pieces that you're cutting off. Now, I'm not really pleased. We're still pretty
Very
pinhead here.
90 degrees.
So I know that when I squared this off, I want this line eliminated. So I'm going to arrange the square so that my edges are
You've
here.
got a hole here.
Maybe we'll turn it just a smidge. Okay, I'm on all 4 points.
Yep.
I like this edge a bit. Here we go. So I've got a point to here.
And you don't really want your purple leftovers in it, but that'll be within the quarter inch
All right.
seam.
I like that, so I'm going to seam it. Trim it off. There we go. Whoop. That little guy there.
And then our last trimming example is this one here. So when I try to, look at all my corners are totally exposed here. So what to do? Well, you're going to find where you're happiest with the trim. Like I like that. Okay. But I've got a place here where it's short.
And it's kind of short on a divot. I would cut this straight and then sew that on there.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to us. So if I have it corner to corner here, so I'm going to use one piece. I'm going to sew it on this side so it fills in my corner. And that's a good idea, just to cut it straight right there. So let's cut it straight.
All right.
Go for it.
There we go.
And then we'll sew that there.
I have one or two. It's just thick. Okay. So now we're going to put a pin in here, because I tell you, you'll turn your head or walk over to the sewing table and you'll forget which sides you were supposed to sew these onto. So now we know we're going to sew this onto these two pieces. We'll press out and then we're ready to square up. Now, before this one goes away, as we made our different squares, we began to have favorites. And then we began to think, well, why did the other ones not make us as happy?
Okay, we'll just take these off.
Okay. Oh, we're going to forget now.
Oh, I know. I'll do it before.
All right, so what did we do that made some were favorites and some weren't? So as we began to look at them, we're like, Now, this one is my favorite, and so is this one. So when I looked at this one, which was our first one, there was very little value change between this layer. So I went very, very dark, and then all of a sudden I was light. So I wasn't really as pleased with that flower as much as I liked this one. So what I did was I went and found another fabric that we had not pulled out, which is a really great indigo, and it was just the right medium tone that was missing in this one. So I had added it in this one, I added it in this one, and I did a better job with this one as far as getting my values to go from light to dark better. The shape of all of them, I think, went really well with our pruning, etc. And so, and I really enjoyed, I thought I really enjoyed the middles being a little brighter, but when it push came to shove, I really like this one better. But I'm not going to throw any of these flowers away. They're all going to make the table runner.
They all look great.
And so my next step, once this one has this little piece sewn on, my next step is actually make my leaves if I plan to make a runner. If you're doing this as just a little project, then you're done. You can either quilt it, make it into a pot holder or a tiny little wall hanging, or you can just keep going like crazy and then sew your pieces together. You can offset them so that they're a little more pleasing to the eye and prune them any way you want to. If you're doing the Rosie Runner pattern, there's another page on how to do the leaves, but in essence, the leaves are made very, very similar to how you just made the log cabin. You're gonna start with 2 strips, lop it off like a leaf, add your edges just as if it was the Round Rosie. You're going to square that up. We're gonna sew 2 of these guys together. That is your unit for the table runner. So,
and then by organizing your units, you can make a skinnier runner or a double wide runner or even a bed of roses.
And the pattern has instructions on how to enlarge it and how many blocks you'd need if you decided you wanted a king-size bed of roses.
Well, I'm going to finish these 2 pieces,
and I'm going to salvage up what pieces we have left here and put our mess away. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel in case we make another clever video. You won't want to miss it.